The Revolution Podcast, Episode 4, Our Thoughts on Chained Heat. Golden Spiral Media presents The Revolution Podcast. Support for The Revolution Podcast is provided by listeners like you and our affiliation with HostGator. Not only does HostGator host over 8 million domains and provide powerful, reliable hosting, HostGator is environmentally friendly. Learn more about HostGator and their renewable energy credits by visiting goldenspiralmedia.com/HostGator today. Welcome back to the Revolution Podcast, everybody. I'm Daryl.
And I'm Jeremy.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing well.
That's great. That's great. We just got somebody in the chat room here. It was Alternicat, actually. Says, where did you guys get this music? It's epic. And we got it from one of our listeners at the Fringe Podcast. He does our intro and outro music that we use for the Fringe Podcast. His name is Kingston. A lot of you guys have probably interacted with Kingston in the live chat or on Twitter or something like that. So yeah, didn't he do a great job on the music? I love it.
I love it too.
Yeah, and so Kingston, shout out to you for the wonderful music. So Jeremy, what is that over there?
It's my notebook, journal of everything powerful or electric.
That's so cool. So you're so nerdy, so into the show now that you have dedicated a journaling notebook on the show to keep track of all your thoughts and theories.
I have. I separated out by scenes, essentially, and it's working pretty well so far.
That's pretty cool, actually. Yeah, you're pretty nerdy.
I am very nerdy, but
that's right. You're in good company, my friend.
I am. I have
that's cool. So it's you've drawn a power symbol in there. I see some notes because it kind of has a transparent cover on there.
I'm getting another request.
Yeah, so we saw Grace had a notebook. I'm getting ahead of myself, but were you inspired by hers?
I was inspired by hers.
Okay, all right. Well, we're going to talk about Grace's notebook and a whole lot more in this episode of the Revolution Podcast. I thought this week's episode of Revolution was really, really good, and I can't wait to talk to you about it. But we have to do some news first, so let's play that news music. All right, we have a few items to talk about in this week's news segment. One of the things that we'll always give, and I don't know if this should be part of the news segment or kind of that between area there, but this week's episode is called Chained Heat, and it was written by Eric Kripke and directed by Charles Beeson. Are you familiar with Charles Beeson at all?
Familiar, but I can't say that I'm as familiar as you are.
Yeah, well, he's been one of the directors on Fringe.
Right.
He has done some of the best episodes of Fringe. He did Jacksonville. He did, in season 4, he did Worlds Apart, and he did Making Angels, which was the Astrid-centric episode. He did a couple of others, too, that I'm drawing a blank on right now. But he's done a wonderful job directing several Fringe episodes, and not just Fringe, but that's where I'm most familiar with him.
Well, chalk up another well-directed episode for him.
Yeah. We didn't mention this last week, but the pilot episode was written by Eric Kripke and directed by Jon Favreau. So, as far as news items, I want to give the update we have on episodes and episode title names. So, episode 3 is called No Quarter, which is what we get next week, October 1st. And then episode 4, remember last week I said it was called Lowell, Indiana, but that might change. And we heard Lowell, Indiana mentioned in this week's episode. And indeed, it did change. I used your word there. Indubitably, it changed. I stole it now when you do it.
I can't do it.
Yeah.
I have to find another word. Inconceivable.
Nice. I like that. Anyway, episode 4 is called The Plague Dogs, and that airs on October the 8th. And then episode 5 is called Soul Train, directed by John Cassar. We mentioned that last week, and that'll air on October the 15th.
Yep. Giancarlo Esposito was also on Jay Leno last night, which would have been Monday night.
Yeah. We record this live every Tuesday. We'll get to that in just a second, yeah.
And if you'd like to see that interview, it's going to be on NBC.com.
Yeah.
So
it might be on Hulu, too. It seems like they have their stuff on Hulu, but don't quote me on that. But it's definitely on NBC. You know, it was a really good interview. They played one of the clips from last night's episode, the conversation he had with Danny, a portion of that. But then they spent the rest of the time talking about Gus, his character from Breaking Bad. They even showed a clip from Breaking Bad. And then Jay was like, "Don't forget to watch Revolution Monday nights."
As long as they're plugging the show, I'm good.
Yeah, I just wish they would have spent more time talking about his current show.
Yeah. Well, when did he film that clip?
It was yesterday. When
no,
was he on?
No, the original or his Breaking Bad clip. When was that
I don't
filmed?
know.
So, because the contents of that particular clip make me wonder why they're actually showing more about that show than this show.
Well, I think the answer to that is that the reason he was in L.A. was because he was in town for the Emmys. He was nominated for his role as Gus.
Right, okay.
So that could be why they spent time
probably
talking about
right.
that, now that I think about it. But we want to talk about Revolution.
Indeed.
Yeah. So we're not going to talk about ratings a whole lot in this show. We mentioned that last week. I'll just say that the ratings last night were, again, very, very strong. NBC won the night with The Voice and the Revolution combo. But this is also pretty cool. Going back to the pilot, they also look at DVR numbers. And the live plus 3 day, which means you either watched it live or within 3 days on your DVR, those results, Revolution delivered NBC's biggest gain over a live plus same day, and that's exactly what it sounds like. Those who watched it live or on the same day that it aired. So that was the biggest gain ever for NBC. It's the biggest ever for a series premiere on any network. So it's a big deal. It's doing really well, doing what it needs to do to stay on the air. Hopefully it'll continue.
And I think it's getting stronger.
Yeah. Yep. All right, Jeremy, you want to tell them about the bonus episode? We gave them a bonus episode last week with our Tim Guinea interview.
And this week, we had a certain Grace on our show.
Yeah.
Maria Howell will be episode 5 for the Revolution podcast.
Yeah, we actually just recorded that right before we did our live show for this episode. We'll release that on Thursday evening as episode 5, your bonus episode. Again, those are bonus episodes. Hopefully we'll get those regularly. We're very blessed and fortunate to have been able to do 2 weeks in a row with an interview of the cast. We're continuing to try to bring those for you. We love them. We know you love them. But we don't have anything at this point lined up for next week, but hopefully we will between now and then.
Yeah.
But two bonus episodes 2 weeks in a row is pretty awesome.
Crossing my fingers for the emails that are out.
Yeah, we've got a couple of
feelers,
requests that are out there. Yeah. And as I mentioned, I want to remind you that if you want to join the live recording of our podcast, we do it every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time over at I got my words tied up. I started saying the Fringe podcast, which is another podcast we do. Anyway.
It's not as important as the Revolution podcast.
Not at this moment. It's over at goldenspiralmedia.com/live. And you'll see our chat room, and you'll see our video. There's a video window there. Ustream, that we stream it live. And so you can interact with us. We'll interact with you and other Revolution fans that are in the chat room. And so that's every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time over at goldenspiralmedia.com/live. And then every Monday night, while the show is being aired on Eastern and Central Time, we're also in the chat room just watching the show together and talking about it. And so you can join that chat over at the same address, goldenspiralmedia.com/live. Now, we do also have the chat room is technically always open. It never closes. So if you're in the West Coast, Jeremy and I won't be there because it's past our bedtime. But actually, technically, I'll still be up doing show notes, show prep. But if you want to come join the chat room over there. In fact, we have a feedback today from one of the West Coasties. Who's asking for some company. It's a little lonely in the West Coast viewing in the chat room. So come hang out and chat with some other Revolutionary fans and have a great time in the chat room at goldenspiralmedia.com/live. And I did say Revolutionary fans on purpose.
Okay.
They are quite revolutionary.
I'm just making sure.
Yeah, right. I did. And one last thing. Oh, I'm sorry. I have 2 things here. Submit your theories and your feedback. We've got some great feedback. I mentioned the one from the West Coast that's coming up here. If you want to call in your feedback for the Revolution podcast, you can call in to our voice feedback line at 304-837-2278. And you can also email us at feedback@goldenspiralmedia.com. And if you're enjoying the podcast, you love it, we would certainly appreciate an iTunes review. If you want to head over to iTunes and, even if you don't, just be honest with your rating. That's really all that we're asking for. But you can find the Revolution podcast in iTunes and Zune, Instacast, Downcast, BlackBerry, Stitcher, SoundCloud. If you name it, we're probably out there, and you can enjoy the podcast in just about any way that you like to consume your podcasts. But if you could leave us a review, we would certainly appreciate it.
Very much.
All right. Any other news, Jeremy? Or did I took it all again?
I think you took it all again, but that's okay. We'll let you go.
All right. I'll let you start out the discussion on the episode episode discussion.
Okay.
All right. But before we do that, let's do the episode recap. The episode begins in flashback, 1 week after the blackout. Charlie recalls the moment when her mom Rachel emphasized Charlie's need to take care of Danny at all times. Back in the future, Miles, Charlie, Aaron, and Maggie arrive in Pontiac, Illinois. Miles is looking for a friend named Nora that has the fighting skills he needs to rescue Danny. A bounty hunter and his men take them captive, but Miles escapes and overtakes them. He gets the bounty hunter to tell him where Nora is and then kills him. They make camp for the night, and Miles tells the team to meet him in Lowell, Indiana in 2 weeks. Charlie does not like his plan and leaves during the night to catch up with Miles. They locate Nora, and Charlie is instrumental in the operation to get Nora and acquire a high-powered rifle. Aaron tells Maggie about the amulet he got from Ben, and he tells her that Ben told him to take it to a woman named Grace in Grant Park, Illinois. General Tom continues his journey back to Monroe and finds a man using a gun to hunt deer. They also find the man possesses an American flag. They kill the man and burn down his house. Nora gives the rifle to a band of rebel fighters. As she cleans wounds she suffered during her escape, Miles sees an American flag tattoo and remarks that she will be lynched on the spot if the militia sees it. Grace receives a knock at her door and is alarmed by who she sees. She slams the door and runs upstairs. She turns on her computer and types in, "Randall is here." He breaks down her door, but we do not see what he does with Grace. In the final scene, Monroe pays a visit to Rachel Matheson. She is alive and living well as his captive. He tells her that her husband is dead and her son has been captured. She strikes at him with a pen, but he blocks her arm, grabs her by the throat, and tells her that she will tell him everything she knows about Ben and why the power went out. All right, so there's the episode recap for this week, which means it's time for episode discussion. Get your notebooks ready.
All right.
All right, Jeremy, I'm going to let you kick it off tonight. What do you have for us?
All right. Well, just one of the things I want to bring up starting off is something that we kind of brought up, had a couple viewers or listeners bring up last week.
Yes.
Was the it in the question at the end with
when
Grace
is at the computer.
Right. Somebody had asked her, did they find it?
Uh-huh.
And we were informed, well, no, if they found it, I wouldn't be typing this. Well, one of the things that I just kind of wanted to make an observation of is I don't believe the it is necessarily the computer, and I just wanted to make that obvious. So I know that...
Well, it could be the amulet, because she couldn't power the computer up without the amulet.
Could be the amulet. It could be something else.
It could be something else entirely different.
Anywho, I just wanted to start with that.
Okay. So. I have a feeling it's the amulet, but I'd like to think that it's neither the computer or the amulet.
Yeah. It's probably a graveyard below the house or something. Who knows?
It's funny you said below the house, because that's exactly what I was thinking, was it was something hidden below the house.
All right,
Since she's in the attic, you know.
Right, it's on the opposite side.
Yeah.
Distraction. If they find the computer...
Yeah, look over here, not here. Right.
One hand's doing one thing, the other hand is... Who knows?
Who knows? Yeah. All right. Well, the title of this episode is kind of weird. Chained Heat is the name of it. It's like I said, it's a bit weird. What do you think chained heat means? I think I know exactly what it means, but I wanted to see what your thoughts on the episode title were.
Well, Shot in the Dark, I think it has something to do with the slaves.
All right, since they were like a chain gang.
Right.
I agree.
So, and The heat maybe refers to the warden. I don't know.
I was thinking the heat refers to Nora. Like if somebody's packing heat, they're packing a weapon. So it could also mean the rifle.
All right. So she is heat. No, I think you're right. She is heat. And I think that she's going to be very fun to get to know in the future.
Yeah.
So
she seems like a very interesting character for sure. So. Yeah. That's what I think it means is referring to Nora being the chained heat or the chained weapon.
Yeah. All right. I got you there.
Okay. All right. So we also got a new intro this week where the voiceover was different, which it needed to be. Last week's voiceover was getting us up to speed as to what happened. And it turned into, what Aaron was teaching the kids.
Right.
So is this going to be our intro that we see every week? Is this the normal Revolution intro, or is it going to be different every week? What do you think?
I think we're going to see the same intro, essentially, but we may have different scenes show in the background. So the voiceover is going to be the same, but I think that, the different areas and things they show will...
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. And so part of that was that someone will come and light the way.
Right.
Sounds very Matrix-y to me. Neo will be the one to come and I don't know the right verbiage.
Fix it all.
Yeah. So it reminded me of the Matrix, and I think that definitely points to Charlie. She seems to be the obvious, the one that's different from everybody else, good, bad, or otherwise. And we'll definitely talk about all
She's
of those.
She's unusual.
She is.
We find out.
Yeah, and that's not a bad thing or an insult, I guess. But so I'm thinking, that's referring to Charlie, although it could be something else.
Yeah.
But she seems to be the hero of the story at this point.
At this point.
Yeah. And JJ does that. He, you think about Alias, had a strong female lead, of course, with Fringe. Anna Torv is the strong female lead in that. Lost had such a grand cast of characters there. There are strong women and strong men. But he is not ashamed, or ashamed's a terrible word, but afraid to cast women in these strong roles.
Yeah.
And I like it. I like that he does.
I do too, so far. It's great.
Yeah. Okay, so let me I guess let's just start it off talking about some of these twists that we got this week.
Okay.
Now, I call them twists. Which ones, like, were they twist you? And so a twist is something I didn't see coming, or it was like, ooh, or, something like that. So the first one is this Randall character. What do you think? Who is he? What do you think his intentions are? You're digging through your notebook here.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you have on Randall?
Well, Randall, I think that he's a former coworker of, or affiliate with Grace and Ben and Rachel. So I think that you're going to see him be very angry at them for some of the things they've done to him, probably.
Okay.
So, well,
my bad.
All right. I don't know much about him right now. He's got a lot of potential. There's a lot of paths he can go. The obvious one is he's the bad guy.
Well, sure.
So.
He came in a very threatening and imposing way with Grace.
Yes.
He had the amulet around his neck, and it seemed to be now Grace's amulet was also activated at that point because she was trying to do whatever she was doing at the computer. I know you've got some thoughts on that, but I think he was also using it because now that makes him, or anything he's touching, in his zone, his buffer zone, so he's able to activate electronic devices. So he had his stun gun or wand of terror. I don't know what do we want to call that thing?
I'm going to call it a glow stick for now.
A glow stick. That doesn't sound menacing at all.
It's menacing enough. I kind of take glow sticks to lightsabers. That's just the nerd side of me.
The glow stick of doom.
Yeah.
I don't know about that, but
it's not quite of doom.
Yeah. And then he did the whole Jason Voorhees thing, she's running up the stairs frantically trying to type stuff, and he's just taking his time. Like, it was almost as if you could see the machete hanging down from his side instead of the glow stick.
Well, I think he kind of had that stance, the same stance. He's got his arms kind of out to his side, and he's got the weapon. Yeah. So we'll call it that.
The weapon.
Yes.
All right. What other twists did you see this Or do you have more to say on that Randall scene or anything?
Randall, I don't really have a whole lot more to add, but I'm really excited to see what he's going to do. So, other twists, I would say that Charlie outsmarting Nate was probably the biggest twist to me.
That was awesome.
I wasn't expecting it. You know, you expect those big twists. You expect bad guys to show up and things like that. But the character who's naive, the character who's frustrating, kind of does a bit of growing up when she captures him. I was sitting there watching it, and I was like, oh, she's such an idiot.
Yeah.
You know, she's fallen. She's just stupid. I was so angry with her. And then she handcuffs him, and I'm like, she planned it the whole time. I'm like, good for her. So I was really happy with her character there.
Yeah, that was great. I didn't see it coming. It was one that I had written down as a twist, too. The way she handcuffed him, and he knew that he had been, bamboozled, I guess. It was a great scene.
Yeah.
It was good.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about Rachel.
Well, what can I say other than Lord Vader?
You called it that she was alive.
Yes.
We talk about this just very briefly in our Maria Howell interview that you'll get in episode 5, but we did talk about this with her. I think it just came up in conversation because she's a fan of the show too, and she I know how she said that they were going to start answering questions. They weren't just going to leave it stringing out there.
And Tim mentioned that too in the other interviews. So.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And so we both thought that Rachel was alive.
Right.
But in my mind, I'm thinking mid-season cliffhanger or season-ending cliffhanger.
Right.
I never ever thought that we would see her alive in season or episode 2.
Yeah, it was. It wasn't necessarily a twist for me, but the shocker that you see it now so quickly. That was very exciting. I think seeing that they are going to be progressing the show at a quick pace is nice. So
yeah, we're getting one of those "I am your mother" in the chat room, which I can do a little lower.
That wasn't a very good Darth Vader.
But I can do a little bit lower with my head cold that I have got going on.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So okay. It looks like she's under house arrest to me. Like he's got her captive, but she's not like in prison. She's got some freedoms there. She's able to write. She's able to dress and feed and whatever she wants is at her disposal. So house arrest is kind of the way it seems to me.
Yeah, I'd agree. She came across as a kind of a prisoner. Are they providing everything for you? It implied that she didn't really have a choice, but at the same time, I kind of felt like she did have a choice. You see the scene when he mentions Ben is dead.
Yeah.
She's upset. She's visibly upset.
Right.
But she's not just overwhelmed.
Yeah.
It's almost like it was expected. She mentions, I suppose you're the one that did it. Not really the exact quote, but and then she gets up and she kind of has that, oh, leave me alone kind of a bit. And then he tells her, I've kidnapped your son.
Right.
And she goes mama bear on him.
Yeah, she does.
Just tries to stab him in the neck with a pin, but he was a little too quick.
Yeah, it's pretty weak. But, her reaction to hearing about Ben's death, it was like she was hearing the news of someone that she once cared about, but maybe didn't really anymore.
Right.
And so I don't know if we're going to get, I think we will. We have to learn what happened between them.
Yeah.
Or how she got in this position.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll learn that through flashback eventually, I would imagine.
I'd imagine it'd have something to do with one of the scenes we see at the end. And let's talk about that later. But with the shooting that occurs by one of the Mathesons. Technically, I guess we had 2 shootings by 2 Mathesons. But,
yeah, we did.
Anywho, she also mentioned to Monroe that he was a womanizing drunk and she liked him a lot better then. I thought that was kind of interesting as well. He's talking about the good old days back from people we know, and I didn't know if she was necessarily mentioning after the fall. I'm going to call it the fall from now on.
Okay.
Or before, and they were friends. You didn't really get a whole lot that they knew from the pilot that they knew each other.
Right.
You just had Miles and Bass, and then you had Ben and Rachel. So
right.
You knew that Ben was associated with his brother, obviously, but
sure.
I didn't really get the feeling that they were all four connected. So it's kind of interesting to me that they are all four connected. So.
Yeah. Now we did see, and I'm pretty sure we touched on this in our pilot review, but when he came home, she knew it's happening, isn't it? You know, and so we knew that she was in the loop on stuff, and we weren't really sure how much she knew or why she knew. I'll go ahead and say this now.
All right.
If you listen closely at the flashback scene when they're at Ben's office, he's inside getting stuff. Rachel says to Charlie, "We're at our work, so Daddy can get some things," or something to that effect. But she calls it our work.
Really?
She doesn't say Daddy's at his work. She says our work. And so I'm thinking they work together. Maybe that's how they met. I don't know.
Yeah.
But if so, then she might know everything that Ben knows.
That's a very good point. Good ear.
But if she doesn't have the amulet, maybe there's nothing she can do about it.
Well, we don't know she doesn't have an amulet.
We don't know that.
So.
Yeah.
And I have a theory on that I'll share later as well. So.
Oh boy, all kinds of stuff coming later. Okay.
I'm trying to save some of the good stuff.
I see. Do you want to talk about the Rachel shooting thing now, or do you want to wait on that?
I don't mind talking about it a bit. I'd like to get to it, but I liked that she shot the criminal, the thief, the food thief. It was something I was honestly, I was kind of sitting on the couch. Stop him! Somebody do something, you know. Right. So when Ben put his gun down, I was kind of like moral victory. Yeah, you're not a murderer. And then she shoots him. I'm like, whoa. I really didn't see her shooting him.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Quite as quickly as I saw Dad. But again, we see her very defensive of her kids. I said Mama Bear earlier, but you see that with you see that with this scene as well. She's very defensive. Anything that's involving her kids, she's right there. So
and that's my wife is the same way. And
yeah.
That's just a parent's reaction, and women in particular. I mean, it was a great way of portraying it. You don't tick off Mama Bear, and I didn't see it coming. In fact, when it happened, I was like, "Whoa!" And my wife, we're watching it together on the couch, and she says, "You didn't see that coming?" And I said, "No, I didn't." And she's like, "I totally saw that coming." So there you go, the whole Mama Bear thing.
Yeah.
She saw it coming, and I didn't.
So your wife had insight into this character that you didn't. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. What's next?
Well, we can start with Charlie's newness and naivety to the world.
Let's do that.
Okay.
I mentioned we would talk about the good, bad, and otherwise with Charlie, and I think there's a little bit of all that going on. I think she's annoying a lot of people. People I'm talking to or hearing on Facebook or Twitter are annoyed a little bit by her. She's a little over the top. She's naive in a lot of ways. She's like a back-talking teenager in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But there's also some goodness there. So here's some observations I made, and just chime on in with your comments on these. I feel like my voice is terrible, and again, I apologize, but as far as bad, if she doesn't straighten up, start listening and cooperating, she's going to get him killed, or she would. She's not going to die. She's not going to get killed. She's a main character, and I just said I think she might be Neo, so she's not going to die.
Well, I'll go out on this and interrupt you here and just say, I do think it's going to take her getting somebody killed before she grows up.
I could totally see that.
So I think we're going to lose one of the characters we know before she actually starts actively maybe being more like the Charlie we see at the end of the episode.
Okay. So if that hangs true, my prediction would be Maggie or Aaron, probably.
I'm going to probably say Maggie of the group that we have. Unless somebody's added, she's a likely option to be removed. As much as I'd like to see her character develop.
Yeah, me too.
to me, Aaron is more that comic relief, every man's man, that kind of thing. He's almost more important to the show.
Right.
Not necessarily a better character to me or a favorite character, but I think that he's more vital to that comic relief, especially if this show becomes a dark kind of a story. If you're familiar with any anime, there's one called Cowboy Bebop. It's very dark, but there's scenes throughout it that kind of break it up and make it kind of funny. Same thing with another anime, Full Metal Alchemist.
Okay.
If it weren't for those funny scenes, for those scenes that really break things up, you couldn't watch it. I mean, unless you were some kind of a freak, I guess, because some of it's just messed up. So I think that's where we're going to be going.
Okay, I like that. I guess that gets me to one of the questions I was going to ask, but it seems like a good way to just squeeze it in now, and that is, now that she's killed 2 people, by the end of the episode, she had killed the warden and then the guy who was struggling with her over the gun. Will that be enough to kind of wake her up, and will it change her the way she responds to Miles and kind of gets on board with the program? Or do you think it is going to take something like somebody getting killed?
I think it's going to take something like somebody she cares about getting killed. What we might see within the next few episodes is her grow closer to Maggie and then lose Maggie, or her grow closer to somebody and then lose them. Killing somebody, I like the fact, I loved her comment at the end, I just killed 2 people.
Right.
This isn't a good day.
Right. I didn't
I didn't do good. This is bad. And I like that she still understands that killing is, in a sense, it's wrong. It's not something that she should be desiring. So I really appreciate that from her character. Right. And I really like that she shows the other 2, Nora and Miles. There's another way, you know. I like that they're strong, actiony hero kind of. They're okay with killing, in a sense. I don't necessarily like that, but I like that they're that type of a character. But I really like seeing her pull that wool back above their eyes, because they've become so cold and so stiff to the world. So
I completely agree. This is one of the things I have written down in my good with her. If she's going to be the Neo character, and I don't think that that's going to be a perfect analogy that's going to work in all ways, but for today's podcast, last week was Star Wars, we're going with Matrix this week.
I'll try and stay on that with you then.
Okay. Although there was a couple other Star Wars tie-ins that we could throw out there, but that's one of the good things that I have. You know, it had never occurred to them that these people were enslaved and that they were worth saving.
Right.
To them, that was just part of the world that they lived in.
Right.
That was the reality of the world now.
A part of me wondered, what did they intend to do with the slaves?
Yeah.
You know, after you killed everybody, were you just going to leave them there?
Right.
So
she's got that fresh set of eyes that they need.
Yeah, she's a little bit more pure than they are, and I think we're going to find out more about that very soon as well. Yeah, how dark they are.
It could be, and so I think that there are strengths among the entire team that they can learn from and tap into each other's strengths and become a really strong team.
Right.
But part of that is going to be that she's going to need to settle down. Mm-hmm. And every time Miles goes to do something, she doesn't need to go and ask him, where are you going? When are you going to come back? Or anytime he tells her to do something, she doesn't need to question him and find out why. Mm-hmm. Just salute and you want my help? You recruited me? Then this is what you asked for. Yeah. Deal with that.
Yeah.
Because it's annoying for the rest of us watching it too. Yeah. It reminds me of my daughter that questions and backtalks every time I tell her to do something. Yeah. It's like, you know what? Just because I said so. I never thought I would say those words to my kids, but I have said those to my kids. Do it because I said so.
Yeah. Well, and you get that from Miles as well when he says, "Shut up, stay here."
Right.
When he walks away and goes while they're in Pontiac and does his thing.
Right.
He's trying to, I guess, teach her in a sense. I'm the boss. I'm older and I'm stronger. Right. I personally still do not have a problem with her naivety. I believe that it's It's integral to her character. I believe she's going to grow out of it. So I think seeing that is something that is important to the character. You've got to see where she began. And I know I'm going to be, in a sense, crucified for saying this, but the prequel trilogy for Star Wars, to me, it's not the best trilogy. It's got its issues, obviously, but I think that just seeing Anakin as a kid, I know everybody does not like that particular character. I love seeing him as a kid because it shows you he is innocent. He is pure. You know, he doesn't have a whole lot of fault, and then you see the corruption, and then you see him fall. And to me, that makes Darth Vader more redeemable and more evil at the same time.
Sure.
You see how much he's changed. So you knew he was evil in the original trilogy. You knew he was the bad guy, and you knew he was redeemed. But seeing him in the first three, seeing Anakin, Annie, as he's called in some of the horrible dialogue, I think that really just portrays a wonderful innocence, and it, to me, makes the character a lot better. So we might see her go from an innocent to somebody who is calloused, but I think she's going to be a balance. I think you're going to see more of a I wanted to say you're going to see more of a Malcolm Reynolds, but that man's so calloused, and in my mind,
he had a heart, though.
Well, he had a heart, but in my mind, I always saw him what he would have been, at least what I thought he would have been.
Okay.
So, he was a lot softer in my mind, but I think something like that might happen, and that kind of goes back to what we said earlier. With she might have to lose somebody, and it may take a while before she loosens back up. She might become Miles for a bit. Who knows? I think that would be interesting.
Yeah, it would.
Shiny.
That's two Firefly references. We did every week when we do the Fringe podcast, we dedicate it to a canceled Lost show, and we dedicated last week's to Firefly. We've done it before, but with it being the 10-year anniversary week of when Firefly premiered, we felt like we should do that again. Anyway, enough for Firefly, I guess. All right. Let's see. I think we've made it through my good and bad between what all we've talked about there.
Okay.
I do think that now that she has killed, it will open her eyes more to the world. Okay. And if she takes the time to contemplate what she did when she stopped Miles from killing the bounty hunter, which could be one of our Star Wars references of the week, just the fact that there was a bounty hunter, I guess, but that almost came back to cause the death or the capture of all of them. So hopefully that'll be enough where she'll go, gosh, I really do need to listen to Miles. He does know best. Well,
I hope she's learning from this. That's for sure. I'm definitely behind that. So.
Definitely. And it's only 2 episodes. I'm not... I still think Tracy is doing a great job. I really do. I love what Tracy's doing with the character. I think she's playing what they're giving her, and I think that they are doing this for a purpose. But I also am seeing, quite a substantial portion of the audience that I'm connected with finding it old.
Yeah.
And so I think they're going to need to start making some changes, and that may be intentional changes that they intended her to develop.
Right.
They need to start doing that soon.
Yeah.
Or they might start losing some audience. Yeah. I'm not one of those. I'm still on board 100%, but I'm afraid some people might. I don't know.
Well, and maybe some of her, to borrow from the chat room here, the preconceptions that she has blinds her from what the world is really like, and maybe she thinks everybody's good at heart when in this world that she lives in, no, they're not really.
Not really.
They're pretty corrupt.
You get outside of that cul-de-sac you're living there, wherever they were, and the world's a more dangerous and different place.
Right. Yeah. Just think Book of Eli. Have you seen that yet?
Is that a movie?
Denzel Washington?
Washington.
Man. And you thought Heart was bad. Yeah, there you go. Thanks.
No, I have not seen Book of Eli. I have not. All right, let's talk about the American flag now being considered a rebel flag. This is a big deal. Is it realistic to you to think that 15 years after a blackout, that there be such a change in the patriotism of America And maybe it's not the changing the patriotism because the guy still had an American flag, but the militia's in charge. How could people go stand for this? I don't know. How did this happen?
That's a good question. I know last week I kind of mentioned I think that some of the government is still hanging on, and you kind of see apparently that is actually manifested in the rebels. But I think that the world, or essentially America, changing from a United States to a divided set of militia.
Right.
I thought that was interesting. Would it happen? Some of the most patriotic people I know on anywhere that I've been, people I've chatted with, they're soldiers. I know a lot of soldiers that I'm proud to say I know, and I appreciate their service, but a lot of them are patriotic, and some of them are disenchanted, yes, and you see that, but even as disenchanted as they are in maybe their leadership or something like that, or what had happened in the past, they're very patriotic still. Right. So seeing somebody like a Monroe, a Bass, change from being in the military to pretty much essentially destroying what he fought for in the past, I could see his character more or less actually fighting to uphold that. So I'm interested to see how they explain why that fall came.
Yeah, I am too, and it I think it's a really interesting plot wrinkle that, frankly, I'm kind of glad they did, because it introduced the Rebel Alliance, which could be the other Star Wars thing.
I think I said that and you just took that, but
I honestly, I was reading an article here and I only caught about half of what you're saying, and I apologize for that.
I didn't say it today.
So okay. But man, that I didn't see that coming. You could be taken out and lynched for even owning or possessing an American flag.
Yeah.
And Miles' reaction when he saw it on the back of Nora was, he was not happy about it.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's anti-patriotic. I think he was more concerned for their safety.
Yeah.
Although he did call the Patriots, fruitcakes or something like that, religious nuts or something like that.
I did not write down the quote on that one. I'm sorry. I did find that interesting how he reacted, though. I know it's in my notebook, but
your handy dandy notebook.
Yes, well, it's not so handy because I have to flip through the pages. Anywho, that's a nice little ditty there.
From Blue's Clues.
Okay, yeah. I don't watch Blue's Clues, so I watch Revolution.
Sorry.
Yeah.
This isn't the Blue's Clues podcast?
No. Oh. And Bianca tells us bleeding hearts is what he said, and I believe that's right. So
okay.
No, I think that his reaction to her tattoo, it sounded to me a lot like, you of all people are doing this, and I'm thinking, she's probably former militia. Yeah. And you could probably say that. I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure she is.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she is, and I'm pretty sure that Miles is.
Oh, yeah, I'm pretty sure, too.
Miles is Bass's friend. I'm sure that they were together for a while, so we'll find out.
I would imagine they both were, and then there was obviously some sort of major falling out between the two.
Yeah, I agree.
Because they're setting themselves up to be the nemesis and the arch nemesis of the show. At least for this season, I think.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting, Nora's not selling the rifle. I kind of wondered, is she going to be the sniper, or is she actually going to give it to somebody? We might see more of that rifle in the future.
How effective is that rifle going to be without any ammo? I mean, are they gonna talk about ammo at any point? Are they? Because a gun is only worth anything if it's got bullets.
Right. Well, I'm sure the guard had ammunition on him, and probably there was somewhere where they were at. So I'd imagine they would get ammo. TV, does it really normally count ammo? You normally don't have they shoot forever. So.
Well, no, that's a great point, but they're also making a point to show that guns are scarce and they even said so much in this episode. Tom told that guy that unless you are an active supporter or participant in the militia, it's illegal for you to own a firearm.
Right. Well, one thing that I was Googling was Google Maps, and just playing around with Indiana. And what I found actually earlier today,
this sounds exciting.
Well, it might be. We'll see if they get there. And look for an episode called Elwood. If it's not Elwood, it might be called Midwin.
Okay.
I don't know. There's a Midwin National Tallgrass Prairie. Alternacat might be able to lend us some information, but this is in Illinois specifically. I'm sorry if I didn't say Illinois. But there's a Joliet Army ammunition plant about 2 miles south of Elwood, Illinois.
That's in the Chicago area.
Yes, it is. So you need ammo. Where better to go than a plant?
Yeah.
So 15 years, it's probably been looted, but I'm sure they've got some standard NATO rounds lying around somewhere. So,
yeah, that's a good point. And what that makes me think of is some of the criticism we've also heard about their clothing.
Yeah.
And if 15 years later, I'll be honest, I don't know how much it would be left, but you would think that looting would have taken place, and they would have gotten, apparently whatever toilet paper they got is gone.
There's no more Charmin.
But, you would think they would have gotten food and water, which would be long gone, clothing, guns and ammo, any of that stuff.
Okay, I'll talk. Oh dear, Alternacat mentions Kelvin. I noticed that as well when they're in Pontiac, and I didn't want to bring that up now, but the cylindrical buildings behind the signs say Kelvin Manufacturing.
Right.
So is that?
That's a JJ thing.
Is that JJ? Okay.
I've got a note on that.
Okay.
JJ's grandfather was named Kelvin.
Ah.
And so he puts that as an Easter egg, like the USS Kelvin was in the Star Trek.
Okay.
At the very beginning.
I didn't realize it was a JJ thing.
Yeah.
So.
Kelvin Genetics is part of what we've seen in Fringe.
Okay. Color me an imbecile there.
Things. So yeah, that's a JJ thing. That's one of his Easter eggs he throws in things.
Okay. Well,
that and Slush Show.
Okay.
Lens flares.
Right.
Lots of lens flares.
Yeah. Now I didn't know if Kelvin was another manufacturing plant, but apparently it's just a
JJ thing.
JJ thing. Okay.
Yeah. All right. What's next on the list?
Let's see. Any more Easter eggs that you saw?
Oh, sure. I've got a couple others here. Monroe is in Philadelphia. That was Independence Hall that he was at.
Yes, it was.
And I don't know a whole lot. I'm not a big history buff, but correct me if I'm wrong. Independence Hall is where they signed the Declaration of Independence.
I'm going to abstain from any comments.
Okay, I'm going to put myself out there, I guess. I believe in the movie National Treasure.
That's where all my history guys comes from. So.
The last time this was here, it was being signed, Breaky or something like that.
That's a pretty good, impression.
Yeah. So, but it's kind of neat to think that Monroe has taken up camp where really our government was starting to be formed, and so I think that's intentional, both on the part of the writers and the producers, but also on his part, Bass's part. So that's pretty cool to see dilapidated looking Independence Hall, and that's where he's taken up shop. So I would imagine Miles and Charlie and well, it's just Miles and Charlie and Nora right now. We have our groups kind of fragmented right now. We have Charlie and Miles and Nora. We have Aaron and Maggie, and I believe they are heading to see Grace, but Grace isn't going to be there, I'm guessing, because she's been taken captive by the mystery man. Mystery in terms of we didn't get to see what he really looked like.
Right.
So we've got, and then we have, Danny and Monroe over here in Philadelphia. So, and gosh, how long would it take on foot or even on horse to get to Philadelphia? And of course, Tom is taking Danny back. So Tom is with Danny, and I'm assuming he's taking him back to Monroe in Philadelphia. So there's a lot of different story elements going on right now.
So do you think he gets Danny back to Philadelphia? Do you think we see any interdiction there?
I think he'll get him back to Philadelphia before Miles and Charlie can intercept him.
All right.
Yeah.
That's a good eye on picking Independence Hall out. So,
anything else? I thought I had one other. Oh, Kelvin was the other one. You said that.
Okay.
Rachel said our work. I said that. So, but you had a couple Easter eggs. What don't you tell us about those?
Well, one of them, I just kind of noticed Grace's journal. I forget which scene it was. I'm sure, again, that's in my notebook. But she had a notebook beside her branded with the power symbol. I kind of thought it was a little obvious, but it tells the viewer, hey, look, she's got a book about power.
Yeah.
So
there's some cool sketches there too.
I did not actually catch all of the sketches. I probably should have paused the screen.
I paused it, but it was too blurry for me to pick out anything distinctly.
Okay. So,
but you did pick out something distinctly.
Well, I picked out, and I'll see if we can get this on the site. I'm not sure if we can upload it anywhere as an image.
We can if you'll email that to me.
Okay.
Then I will upload it. It'll be in the show notes here. This is episode 504. 504. We're in season 5 for Fringe. This is episode 4 of the Revolution podcast. And so when I say the show notes, it just means go over to goldenspiralmedia.com and /revolution and look at the podcasts. And so look for episode 4. You'll see our description that we write about the episode, and then we have links to the stuff that we talk about. I'll include the picture right there. So goldenspiralmedia.com /revolution, and then look for podcast episode 4.
All right. Well, what's in the picture here in question is it's actually at Grace's desk when she's sitting down. There's some text that scrolls up on the screen, and being a curious nerd, I wanted to see what it was. So I managed to pause, and the first time I paused, I didn't get what I wanted. I wanted to see what the quote-unquote coding was doing.
Yes.
But I got something I thought was a little bit better.
I think so, too. This is a great find.
What I have is it actually says string to encrypt. So, and I ended up looking at the code, and what it looks like was just a general, here's your string, encrypt it with this encryption or whatever. So it wasn't anything revealing. I didn't see a whole lot there. But what I did notice was it has a list, and I'm going to go ahead and say that it's a list of people who either worked with Ben or worked somewhere in the past, or it's a list of people who have the amulets.
Okay.
But we see Rachel Matheson and Grace Beaumont. They're the top 2 names on this list.
We know who both of them are.
Right. Number 3 is Randall. He does not have a last name. He's the only character on this list. There's 20 names. He's the only one without a last name. So maybe that's JJ tipping his hat to Randall Flagg.
Right.
I'm not sure. Maybe he didn't want to actually name him Flagg, but he wanted to let the viewers kind of take that, if you will.
I would like to think that that's the case. So there's a little bit of an Easter egg for those who get it.
Right.
And if they don't, that's fine. They don't need to get it. But if those who do, there's a different layer of appreciation there.
Right.
And that's from the Dark Tower, if I'm remembering correctly. Help us out, chat room. Where does Flagg come from? Randall Flagg. It's a Stephen King. The Stand. Okay. Thank you for correcting me.
All right. Well, I think they're saying "and the Stand," so you're
so
right.
It's both of them.
It's both. So.
Okay.
All right. So, anywho, we see another group of names, and correct me if I'm wrong. Well, I'm not gonna. Well, I can read them all.
Yeah, read them all.
We have a Miriam.
This could be good for names to
look out for.
Yeah,
and keep an eye out for. I'll just read the first names for now. Miriam, Aaron, Roger.
Miriam and Aaron, those are both biblical names.
Well,
they were brother and sister.
Erin.
Huh?
Aaron is a female. Aaron.
Oh, Erin. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
We do have an Aaron on the show though.
Yeah. So we have a Roger.
Okay.
Beth, Michael, Doug, Luke, another biblical name if you're looking for biblical.
Funny, I thought Star Wars first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Billy, Doug, Matthew, George, Amy, Paul, Sam, Rick, Rudy, and Ian. Nothing to me that stood out. I think Rudy is kind of funny, and I need to actually Google Rudy Persico. It's a Rudy, Persico. They're a little bit close to South Bend. I don't know if he's throwing in Rudy for a reason or not, but we'll see.
That's funny.
Anywho, very generic names. I mean, you have a couple of names that are more unique, but then you have like Miriam is not something you see a lot nowadays.
Right.
but then you have Doug, Amy, Paul. It's very simple.
Yeah.
Their last names, I didn't really pick anything up on either, but just keep an eye out for some of those names. We'll have this posted, so if you want to write a list down when you watch the show and check names off if they show up, that'd be pretty cool. So yeah, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
So, anywho, that's just one of the Easter eggs that I found out. Let's see. We also have, if you look at some of the computer screens, more codes. I paused a few of those. You didn't see a whole lot of more information other than codes. In the final scene, when she's at the computer, and Randall is walking up the stairs, she's frantically typing. What I kind of picked up in the coding right before that is her connection failed and then it was retrying.
Okay.
I don't know if that means anything, but maybe they're trying to make it look authentic or something, but she was not able to connect before he got there. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So
yeah, it is. That's a good catch. That's a very good catch. And like I said, I'll have that picture of all those over on our website at goldenspiralmedia.com/revolution. This is episode 4. So I tip my hat to you, my friend. That was good.
All right, thank you.
All right, any other thoughts on the episode as a whole, or any other topics specifically you want to talk about?
I can't think of any topics now, but I do say as a whole, I was pretty impressed with the episode. It was very strong. It came out swinging. I think it kind of had some bits here and there. One scene that I really liked was between Aaron and Maggie.
Yeah.
Actually, that maybe this is something I do want to talk about. He makes a comment to her, or she makes a comment to him, just about how she's not seen her kids, and you don't know, what tomorrow brings. Essentially,
right?
I thought that was kind of neat.
Yeah, that was almost up for quote of the week, and I ended up, I had 6 quotes, and that was one of the 2 that didn't make it, but that was a great quote.
Yeah, I liked it. So,
and it made me think because we talked last week about how we don't think we can trust her.
Right.
And we'll talk more about that conversation that she and Aaron had when we get to our Twitter poll question here in a few minutes.
Okay.
Because it involves that. But, I mean, it definitely showed a different side to her than we saw last week.
Yeah. It's a very human side.
Yeah.
So.
And that's another thing that's pretty interesting here. Everybody we've encountered so far has lost somebody.
Yeah.
She lost her kids. Grace lost, it was the son or daughter that had the inhaler.
Right.
Of course, the Mathesons have lost everybody just about.
Yeah.
Aaron mentioned that he had gotten married at the Grand Hotel.
Right.
And
so
his wife's nowhere around. Yeah. And I love that in the sense that that's probably what it would be like. There would be so much death after an event like this happened, from accidents to disease, starvation maybe, or rebel fighters, or not rebels in this case, but the militia.
Mm-hmm.
Just a variety of things.
Right. So
yeah.
See, in the same scene where he's talking to her, I labeled the scene confession.
Okay.
For myself. But he actually confesses to her. Actually, it's a different scene. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Where he confesses and says, "Hey, I have an amulet. I don't know what it does."
Right.
I thought that was kind of interesting. And he makes a comment later to her, and I don't know if it's actually in the same physical scene, or if it's in the in a different scene. Just they're in the same area or whatever. But he tells her, what if we could get the power back on? And what if you could go home? What if you could see your kids again? And then it goes to commercial. And I kind of made some noise on my couch, and my wife looked at me and goes, "What?" And I know that this is likely not where he's going, but it sounded a lot like a time travel.
It sure did, didn't it?
So
I mean, it would be, JJ loves time travel.
Right.
Listen, it's in every project he does just about. So it certainly would not be out of the realm of possibility for this show to have some time travel.
So, I mean, well, they screwed up physics, and he says specifically when you come back from commercial break there, that physics has been cornholed.
Yeah.
So I like the blackout cornholed the laws of nature, and I thought that was kind of interesting. So, I mean, if the laws of nature are quote unquote cornholed,
why not?
Why not? Yeah. So, I'm not saying it's going in that direction, but without any other information, because it made it sound like that's not where it was going, but that in the way Aaron was talking, he didn't really think that, but the way the show writers made it sound was this is a possibility. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that in the future.
Yeah, I wouldn't either, just because of, like I said, JJ. And, is he going to be involved day to day on this show a year from now? Probably not, given the way he does things, but that doesn't matter. I mean, time travel didn't come into Lost until, season 4, I think, 3 or 4?
3 or 4, late 3, early.
Yeah. For Fringe, I think it was season 2.
Okay.
I don't know about the other stuff, but it could happen. It sure could. I'm not going to shoot it down.
All right. We're missing quite a bit so far. Another scene that I actually liked was the I call it funeral. You have Danny listening to Tom preach at this funeral essentially, and he scoffs and just like at the end of it, like. And to me, when he did that, it was like in my mind, I was thinking, "You really believe that?" Like he's kind of thinking, "You're crazy.
Yeah,
you don't believe this. You're just saying it
for
the others." And we'll probably get to this in the quote of the week, but I loved what he said there when Tom questioned him. It was like, "Hey, if you're going to say this, be convicted. Say it." And when he said it, I'm like, way to go, And then when he's being choked, he stared him down. I was like, that's good. I liked seeing that. As a character, he's showing some power behind his words. I thought that was really neat. I don't know if being choked affects asthma, but I was glad not to see asthma come into this as well.
I agree. I thought Graham did a great job in that scene in particular. He hasn't had a lot of screen time, not nearly as much as Tracy, his sister. Obviously, not real life sister, but
So
he did great in that scene, and I thought he, Giancarlo Esposito is an Emmy-nominated actor.
Right.
He stood toe to toe with him in that scene. That was great.
Yeah.
And that might be it for Quote of the Week.
Yeah.
Might be.
Okay.
Might be.
See, another scene was the gunshot was the farmer that essentially brought about the funeral. He mentions at one point he's got a wife. Her name was Julia. So I have a list of names for wives. If my thoughts are correct, his wife is never going to be the same name twice. I don't believe he has a wife, but I could be wrong.
What are you talking about? She cooks a mean venison steak.
Yeah, that's right.
Just, what did he say something about?
I don't know, but it made me hungry.
Not me. I don't like venison.
Really?
No, not really.
Oh, it's pretty good. I like it. So, another thing that I kind of picked up on, they had the Baltimore Act. That's the apparently the act or law that makes firearms illegal. So I thought that was interesting. They kind of named it, gave it a name, gave it a little bit more fleshed out. Yeah,
and that was good for the viewers too to know. Now we know exactly what the deal is with the guns.
Yeah. So, and he reveals the shotgun, throws it out there. It's a nice little pump action. Nothing really awesome, but I'm also tallying how many times that Tom does not get shot when people are shooting.
Now listen, he shot the guy that was in his face coming into his house.
Just spray and pray, man. You've got a pistol, you've got more than one round, and you know they're going to shoot back. You just take as many as you can with you. And I think if he was a real patriot, if he was a real rebel, quote unquote, that maybe he should have gone down fighting. And he sees the militia pull up, don't answer their questions. I mean, they know that you shot that. They see it, the buckshot on the deer. I thought that was interesting. So I think that maybe he should have defended his turf a little bit more solidly. If he'd have left the door closed, he could have shot from all the windows and probably taken a few out.
Yeah.
So,
it's pretty stupid to be hunting with a rifle like that. Maybe he assumed there wasn't militia in the area. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I think, if you're going to have a gun, it's secret.
Yeah.
If you're going to hunt, you use a crossbow, a bow. You do it the lawful, according to this way.
Yeah.
That way you don't draw extra attention to yourself.
Exactly.
So, but we needed that. We needed Giancarlo's character to be developed more.
We got to hear him tell another little story before.
Right. So before he killed somebody.
Yeah, I was going to say that, and then I thought, well, he didn't kill Grace or Danny, but I guess he told Ben a story there.
Yeah. Which was a same kind of a story. So we're kind of fleshing that out. So also kind of going back to the scene, the flashback with the basketball, where Charlie gets kind of kidnapped, captured, whatever you want to say. They're at the University of Chicago. And any of our Chicago-y people or our Illinois people, they can tell me. After a quick Google search last night, I found something maybe means nothing, and maybe I didn't complete my research, but it was very brief. I didn't spend a lot of time on it, but the University of Chicago's website doesn't have a computer science department that I could see. I was on my phone, so maybe I just missed it. If I go to a full site, it'd be a lot more, but just one of the things that I looked at, and I was like, that's interesting. So it's typical of shows, I know, to make up places, but I did think it was kind of neat to see the University of Chicago is where he was, and that's where they worked, from what you said earlier.
Right.
It's both of the Rachel and Ben. So, and it's, I don't know, 5 miles east of one of the airports, not O'Hare, but
Midway.
Midway, that's right. So, all right.
Okay.
Was there anything else that you noticed about the show?
I think that's all the notes that I have.
Okay.
Is that all you have?
Yeah, that's all I have. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, that's good stuff, Jeremy. So I still don't have permanent music for our quote of the week, but I do have this temporary music that I have. It's not very good, but here it is.
Okay.
Quote of the week. Try unmuting that. It's a little transformery. I don't know, it's just a placeholder. I need to get something better, but I haven't done that.
It's a little ironic. Kind of has that electric feel.
Yeah. All of our music does.
Makes me feel like I need to shave. Electric shave.
All right. We're going to start our quote of the week this week with our winner from last week, which was not even close. A roll of Charmin.
No, come on. They usually had a doctor's kit up front. Good meds.
How do you know?
I owned one. A plane.
Seriously?
Yeah. I used to work at this place called Google.
That was a computer thing, right?
Now, it's nothing. $80 million in the bank, and I would trade it all right now for a roll of Charmin.
All right. That was our winner. And so we have 4 new ones this week, and the first one is Maybe We Can Fix It.
So we take this to this Grace woman, and she does what with it?
I don't know. Ben just said she knew something about the power.
This doesn't make any sense.
But that's the thing. I think it actually might.
How?
The blackout, that doesn't make any sense. Totally cornholed the laws of nature, and it shouldn't be permanent. We should be able to fix this, but for some reason we just can't. But if it were man-made...
Man-made? Why would someone do something like that?
Listen, if I'm right, then this is good news. This is the best news.
How?
Because if it's man-made, then maybe we can fix it.
All right. And number 2, I appreciate the honesty.
I think the Monroe militia is the one thing between us and total anarchy. Maybe it's just a finger in the dam, but it's the only order we got left.
You want to know what I think? I think that you tell yourself that. I think the truth is, you like to kill. Because you're a murderer and a psychopath.
I appreciate the honesty.
That is pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. All right, to the third quote. Shut up and stay here.
Danny's riding with guys like that, and what are we doing here?
Told you. Need to talk to somebody.
Miles, wait.
My little brother's out there somewhere. He hasn't been more than 5 miles from home since he was a kid, and it's my job to look out for him.
If you want to see him again, we're going to have to go up against Monroe himself and a couple thousand of his men. I can't do that alone. I need help, and my help is here. Be right back.
Where are you going?
This little place called Shut Up and Stay Here.
Pretty good. And the final quote is, "It's not an insult."
Okay. Gotta hand it to you. You did good.
Did good.
Yeah. All these people are free.
I killed 2 men today. Maybe that's not a big deal for you. Maybe it's another Monday or whatever, but it is to me. We shouldn't have to do this. Things should be... I don't know.
You are very unusual.
What's that supposed to mean?
It's not an insult, Charlie.
All right, so those are the quotes for this week.
They're very good. I can't pick one myself.
I've got my favorite picked out.
Do you?
Yes.
Right. You're not going to share that with us, though.
I am not going to share.
Right.
My quote did not win from last week, but that's okay. That's all right. It wasn't even close. I think I mentioned that, but hopefully it'll be a little closer this week. So go over to goldenspiralmedia.com/revolution. And I mentioned earlier in the podcast there that you'll see our blogs and our podcast and the cast info, but also polls. And so that's where this is located. And that'll be up. I said last week that it should be up Tuesday night. That's not happening. By the time I get the podcast edited and stuff like that, it comes out on Wednesdays. And you have until, I think I shut it off Sunday at midnight. So you have until Monday. Well, not until Monday, but whatever. Sunday at midnight or so it shuts off. But anyway, go over there to Revolution. Boy. Go over there to goldenspiralmedia.com/revolution and then click on polls. You'll see the quote of the week for this week's episode, which was Chained Heat. So, yeah. All right. The next thing, I'm actually pretty excited about this week. Not that I'm not ever excited about it, but it should be a lot of fun. We got some great feedback in this week. So let's play that awesome feedback music and hear from the listeners. Alrighty, the first one is going to be some audio feedback that we received from Kome.
Hey guys, this is Kome from Savannah, Georgia, calling about the Revolution podcast. So far, I think this is a very good show. I'm liking the concept. However, there could be some improvements with the execution, especially the way the show looks. It's overly polished. Everything looks like it just came out of a laundry machine. It's been dried up, and everyone's hair looks perfect, and the makeup looks excellent. I wish it would look a lot more like the way Firefly did. I don't expect everyone to look dirty, but in Firefly, they made people look dirty, but still made them look presentable for TV, which is what I expected for a post-apocalyptic show. Another thing that I think they could improve on is the Charlie character. I think she's a bit over the top right now. If they could tone her down a little bit, she would be more endearing, at least to me. On to episode 2. Very good episode, very solid episode. A little bit meandering in the middle. However, the end was excellent. And every time I thought they were going to pull off a cliche, they actually did something else and went a different route, which surprised me, especially when Charlie fell down and I thought she twisted her ankle. I said to myself, well, here we go. She's going to be nursed back by Nate. However, it was actually trapped by her to capture Nate. So that was some pretty good writing, I thought, anyway. Again, the end, really good ending. I like the setup with this Randall character. I also like the setup with the reveal for Elizabeth Mitchell. I'm a big fan of Elizabeth Mitchell from Lost as well as V. So it's good to see her that she's not only going to be in the flashback episodes, but she's also going to be in the present time episodes. So that was an excellent thing to see. So far, I've got a little bit of a theory. I think other people have this theory as well, but it looks to me that whoever caused the blackout is getting their desired effect. There might be some sort of an experiment, like one of the episodes of Twilight Zone, where they shut out the lights on Main Street and then wanted to see how the humans would react. Or it could be that someone or a group of people decided that humanity had way too much technology and they wanted to curb our technological advancement just so we don't blow up ourselves. This would go along with J.J. Abrams kind of shows. And on Fringe you had ZFT. In Alias you had Milo. I forgot the main prophet guy's name, but I think it would go along with J.J. Abrams. Anyway, I'm rambling a little bit too long. Glad you guys have a podcast of this show. Glad this show is out. Talk to you guys soon.
All right.
I like that. So, I'm going to have to start at the end of his comments because it's fresh on my mind. But I like the experiment idea. Maybe it's somebody experimenting on humanity. So it's very interesting to see where they would go with that and what they could do with that. So I definitely like that theory.
Okay.
So, what about you?
I stepped out for a minute during some of that, so I didn't hear all of that, but so I won't comment on that. Now, I did like what he said about what Firefly did with the way they made their characters look. I thought Firefly did a great job with that. Mm-hmm. Something that I think a lot of other shows could learn from.
Yeah, I agreed with that as well. I thought that was interesting, and it's something that I never really, I guess, considered. I mean, as much as I love Firefly, to me it just looks so right. Yeah. So I never really thought otherwise. So I think he's spot on there. I think maybe they can take a few cues from that.
Yeah.
So.
But having said that, I think they're off to a great start. And as we've said, I think it's a really great show, really strong. There's just so much exposition going on right now. Mm. They're building so many different storylines and presenting all the wrinkles and all the layers to the onion. And unfortunately, we're getting some of those answered quickly. But I think it's off to a great start, I guess is where I was trying to go with that.
Yeah.
All right. You want to read one? Or you want me to read one first?
I'll go ahead and read one. All right. I'm going to edit what he has written here just a little and just say it's hello, Jeremy and Daryl. I'm going to reverse those names, put me in front.
Because, I see how you are.
Yeah.
That's all right.
All right. Well, he says...
I can fix that in post-edit.
Okay.
No,
don't do that. Yeah. I have to say, I almost gave up on the show after just the pilot. As a physics major, I was mortified and enraged by most of the premises that were set up. However, I decided to give the show a few more episodes since I do so enjoy having your GSM productions in my earbuds.
Oh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm happy to say that this episode was a huge improvement in my eyes. I just wanted to point something out. As a pretty avid Stephen King fan and a very avid of The Stand and his Dark Tower series, I nearly jumped out of my chair when the man Randall came to visit Grace. In The Stand, Randall Flagg is the demonic walking dude in a post-apocalyptic America, recruiting criminals and the generally psychotic to form a new world order in Las Vegas. He recruits his citizens from around the world, gets the power back on in the city, and begins training them to fly fighter planes, and eventually acquires an atomic bomb.
Wow.
This wouldn't be the first bit of King's work borrowed by a JJ show. Much of Lost was based on The Stand, and the Smoke Monster or the Man in Black was actually heavily based on Randall Flagg. All things Damon Lindelof and company have readily cited. Flag also appears in the Dark Tower series under a variety of aliases: Walter, John Farson, even the Man in Black. The series takes place, again, in a post-apocalyptic world. Although this one is hundreds or thousands of years in the future, and most of the main characters speak of the Great Old Ones, and the machines and technology that led to the fall of man before the world had moved on. The fourth book goes into the story of Flag, John Farson, as he amasses an army and raids an abandoned Citgo facility for oil, as he apparently found a way to get the war machines of the Great Old Ones working again. The scene with the slaves hauling the helicopter in Revolution was very reminiscent of this storyline, and I'm very interested to see if this Randall character ends up being one of the main people responsible who has the ability to get the machines and power running again for his own evil gains. Sorry for the long email. Thanks for putting together another great podcast and for getting me to keep watching the show. It just may keep me occupied while I wait for Fringe Friday. Rick from Illinois.
That's good. Thank you, Rick. I don't think I asked you this question when we were talking about Randall, but why do you think they only showed him from the waist down?
Well, I think maybe we'll see some major scarring. Maybe he electrocuted himself with the glow stick. I think he's going to be pretty ugly. Now, whether or not we see that come about, I don't know, but I do want to think that. So what do you think?
My theory is that we may not learn who he is for, at this pace, let's say 2 or 3 episodes, but in the next 1 or 2 episodes, he'll be in there, but we won't recognize him.
Yeah.
And then they'll reveal that he's Randall, and he's just really, and we'll have a different opinion of him by that time, or it'll just kind of help it click a little bit more.
I like that.
So they didn't want to reveal his face yet.
Yeah. So he'll be a good guy for a couple episodes. Then,
maybe so.
Then we'll find out he's actually the bad guy.
Yeah, he's actually Randall.
That's cool. Okay.
All right. Let's see. I'm gonna play one, and then I'm gonna read one here.
Okay.
So let's play this one that came in from Maureen.
Hey guys, this is Maureen Paulini calling from San Diego about the Revolution podcast. I made a list so I can try to stay a little bit organized. First, welcome Jeremy from the Fringe podcast listeners who are now listening to the Revolution. I'd love to hear more about your book. Second, West Coast folks, come hang out in the chat room. Currently, there are about 2 of us there every week, so it'd be nice to see some more people. Third, good call, Jeremy, on Rachel Matheson still being alive. I didn't see that one coming. 4, I agree that whatever is operating is a dampening field, but I think that there was more to it than just kind of a Luddite movement that wanted to take us to a more simple time. I'm leaning toward the theory that a group of people, possibly positioned within one or more governments, developed this tech in order to take over various governments. So I think it was like a power play. If they controlled the power, then they had all the power and were in control. And I think that a group of people, including Ben, were either duped into working to develop the tech or found out something that they shouldn't and began working to stop the bad guys. And that originally the intention was to give maybe a demonstration and essentially hold the world hostage and then come into power, but that something went wrong, or maybe more likely they wanted to have enough time pass that governments fell and they could just kind of step in and take over, but then something happened. And if Ben and his group of people have the ability to bring the electricity back, the technical know-how, then all bets are off in terms of the kind of 2-group struggle, because now whoever can get to Ben and the people that he worked with, they also have a shot at controlling the power. So now it isn't all in one group's hands, but it can be in whatever group is powerful enough to get access to the information. So I just think that probably there were more base, less noble reasons for this event to happen other than just to bring us to a simpler time. I think that power was at the heart of it, not just electrical power, but also political and economic power. Which brings me to my next point, which is, what about steam engines? steam-powered boats, steam-powered trains. We don't see anything like that. And finally, is anybody else finding Charlie as annoying as I am? I am hoping that her character gets better. As the parent of a teenager and a pre-teenager, I'm used to dealing with, and then somebody who works at the university with young college-age students, I'm used to dealing with people, many of whom have had circumstances in their lives that were enormously difficult, and none of them have been as annoying as she is. So I really hope that they kind of get rid of the annoying parts of her character and focus on the things that are admirable about her, and there are some. So that's it. Thanks for everything that you do, and I'll be hanging out in the chat room on Mondays, so please don't let me be lonely, West Coast folks. Why don't you come on in and talk, because that's one of the cool things about Golden Spiral Media, is the community that happens, and currently I'm a community of 1 or 2 on the West Coast. Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks, Maureen. And that's the way it was, too, when we started the Fringe podcast. It was 1 or 2 on the West Coast, and now, gosh, we have 30 or 40 people, I think, over there. And then for the East Coast and Central, we started out with about 15 or so, which is about what we've had tonight and on the during the show. Mm-hmm. And now we'll have 75 to 100 in there. And so the community is wonderful. She's exactly right. Come be a part of it. And it's just fun interacting. That water cooler style talk is so much fun. And in fact, when we talked to Maria earlier tonight, you'll hear that on the podcast that we release on Thursday. She talked about that, how fun it is to have that water cooler style talk about the show. And that's what our chat room provides in our live show, hopefully. So come be a part of that. It's over at goldenspiralmedia.com/live. And Maureen's wonderful, and I appreciate you being a part of that, Maureen. What'd you think about her theory, though, on why the power went out? Not necessarily someone motivated by not appreciating the moral movement of the landscape, but more a power play.
I think it's more likely than the former. I like it. I like a lot of theories. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but when it comes to TV, I like having as many theories as I can about what's going on. So this particular theory does sound very plausible. Maybe it was a government or an entity that wanted to take over, and oops, they botched it. So
yeah, no, I completely agree, and probably it is more likely this scenario. That's kind of why I liked the one I threw out there last week, because it's a lesser likely scenario. I kind of like to do that, where I try to find something a little more obscure and throw it out there. So, but I like the theory, and that's the thing at this point in the story when we know nothing.
Yeah.
You know, we talked about time travel earlier. Yeah. Hey, all cards are on the table at this point.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you like to go all in with the Jack Deuce, so that's nice.
Hey, why not? Sometimes you can bluff your way through it.
Sometimes, right.
Jack Deuce.
All right. Let's see.
Any other notes on Maureen?
Steam engines?
Yes, thank you. I knew there was something else.
It's something that I have noted. I guess I've not even mentioned. I'm glad she brings it up because, why aren't they there? It's coal and fire, you know.
Right. There's no electrical. There's no spark. Mm-hmm. It's combustion. It's heat. Heat rising, expanding. You know, it's a very, very basic principle of physics. But you know, Aaron said physics are cornhole or something like that. Yeah. So I don't know, and maybe that's the answer. I think we'll get that answered. I think surely they recognize that people are asking these most, basic of questions, and so they'll need to answer those. Like this week, we got a very straightforward answer about the guns,
right?
And so hopefully that'll come soon.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to read this one, unless you have anything else on Maureen there.
No, that's good.
Okay. I'm going to read this one that came in from Kevin in pre-apocalyptic Chicago. Nice to know the apocalypse has not yet taken place there in Chicago. Kevin says, hello, I've been a long-time listener of the Fringe podcast and was happy to hear that you're creating a podcast for Revolution as well. Here's my feedback on the first episode after listening to your first couple of podcasts and seeing the pilot twice. This may be a long feedback, so I understand if you can't use all of it, and I have trimmed it a little bit. Could you not do that, please? That shows up as a highlight on my screen, and it makes it harder to read. Clint does the same thing. I've had to ask him to stop doing that. Thanks.
I'll remember that.
Yeah, thanks. Anyway, Jeremy's highlighting in the show notes to keep where I'm reading, but it throws me off, in case you're wondering. All right, back to Kevin. He says the fact that no one has been able to assemble a working electrical generator at all implies that there is some active suppression of mechanical, but not biological electrical energy. It's not just the lights went out. It's that someone is keeping them out. The pendants are only a temporary reprieve from the suppressing effects. I can't explain why diesel engines, for example, would be affected, but maybe with electricity being suppressed, it's not possible to import or refine diesel fuel or maintain other parts of the supply chain to keep society working. I'm looking forward to seeing exactly how much technology is still working, or why it's not working, as the show goes on. A very minor note, one caller mentioned that Grace's computer was running DOS, but if you look carefully, it's actually running Linux. This may have no significance, or any computer that can run, this may have no significance. Any computer that can run Linux could run DOS, or it might be a callback to the Google references since they run some of their infrastructure on Linux. Thanks for reading and keep up the good work on the podcast. And once again, that's Kevin from Pre-Apocalyptic Chicago.
All right. Thank you for pointing out the Linux thing. I might have to take some nerd cred hit on that one myself.
Is that right?
Yeah. Appreciate that. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Now, I like that he mentioned the oil refinery and stuff. You know, we didn't, I don't know how much we talked last week about, you know, I know we talked about diesel engines, but I think that's definitely worth noting as far as the refining process. Now, I don't know, did you ever watch this show? It's called The Colony.
Is it the reality show?
It was a reality show. I want to say it was
AMC
on or History Channel or
A&E maybe. Yeah,
maybe
okay.
A&E might be right.
I think I watched a few episodes.
It was a really cool show where they took people, I don't know, a group of 15 or so, and put them into a post-apocalyptic environment,
right,
and made them survive,
right.
And it was pretty interesting. It was obviously staged and monitored and stuff like that. But at the same time, these people had to build a windmill and use it to create electricity. They also were able to create a big water tub to catch rainwater and stuff like that. But one of the really cool things that they did was the producers or whoever had put a bunch of dead pigs in the back of a semi-truck. And it's pretty gross. They're all bloated and stuff like that. So obviously you couldn't eat them. So what could you use them for? Well, they took them and stripped them down and rendered their fat, and they actually made some fuel out of it. So was it very good, and would it have been? I don't know. I mean, it got the job done,
right?
And it may have just been. Gosh, I think they were running a diesel engine, like a tractor engine with it, though, because diesel fuel is different from unleaded fuel,
right?
Gasoline. So I don't know. Those questions are really interesting questions. Why they're not working. Steam that Maureen just talked about is another one. Why isn't that working? And like I said, I think we'll get the answers to that. But I think Kevin has a good point that the refining process of how crude petroleum is taken and then manufactured into a gasoline that we can use, that may just not be possible,
right?
At least not on a large scale. So any fuel that would have been around is either evaporated or has gone, sour. I don't know the proper term for it. You know what I mean? It does go bad after a while. So
it's a fair point. It's something I honestly didn't consider, and maybe I should have. We have a huge infrastructure that relies on essentially electricity to do anything. So not having that would be very detrimental to us as a society. So.
Right. Yep. Good feedback. All right. We've got one more audio to listen to here. This is from Ed.
Hey, Daryl and Jeremy. This is Ed calling from California, and I'm actually a professor in engineering and thought I'd chime in with a little bit of the Clint role that he has on the Fringe podcast with regards to some of the technology and some of the questions that you brought up in your first Revolution podcast, or actually I guess the one that related to the pilot episode. First of all, with regards to physics going crazy, clearly something has happened with regards to the laws of physics insofar as electromagnetic induction being no longer possible. And this is how electricity is generated in a generator by moving a magnet across some coiled wire. So whether the source of the rotation, mechanical rotation, is from a steam turbine, or if it's from, I think one of the callers mentioned a water wheel or a wind turbine, clearly all forms of this rotational mechanical energy is incapable of being converted to electricity because physics has gone wacky. So I think that's pretty consistent, at least insofar as I've seen on the first episode. There is the issue, however, that you brought up about diesel engines, and I actually have some expertise in the area. Diesel engines do not, in fact, have spark plugs, which would require electricity. They are operated based upon compression ignition, and just the high temperatures and pressures of compressing air in the cylinder inside the engine cause diesel fuel to be auto-ignited when it's injected. So there really is nothing that I've seen so far that would prevent diesel engines from operating. The glow plugs that you mentioned in your comments are on some diesel engines for cold start, but it's not a requirement for a diesel engine to operate. It doesn't appear that anything crazy has happened with regards to chemistry and combustion chemistry, because we see in the episode candles burning and gunpowder. Gunpowder is another form of combustion chemistry that is used in the guns. So the question does remain why diesel engines cannot operate. Now, I suppose the show writers and creators could suggest or claim that the production of diesel fuel is quite difficult in terms of extracting raw crude petroleum from the ground and refining it into diesel fuel. So maybe a diesel fuel source is not available. But really, you can make biodiesel fuel relatively easily with some alcohol, which clearly they're producing, and some vegetable oil. So maybe we'll see diesel engines down the road. Maybe we'll see steam-powered engines if they have combustion and they can burn things. They can certainly burn wood and coal to run steam engines. So maybe, who knows, we'll have a little bit of a steampunk thing going on later on in the show.
That'd be cool.
I think that's all I had for now in my Clint role for the Revolution podcast. And thanks for the podcast, you guys. By the way, as a final note, I do have an idea about what's on that USB drive. It's got to be cat videos, because really, what would the world be like without saving cat videos for future posterity? Thanks again, guys. Talk to you later.
Is he serious? Do people watch cat videos?
I don't. Nice.
I don't know. I don't watch cat videos. I think that's ridiculous. Why would anybody watch a cat video? Who wants to see, like, what? Cats playing the piano?
That does not sound like fun at all to me.
I don't know.
I just laugh at the people who watch those.
Yeah, I certainly don't watch cat videos.
Certainly.
That's a terrible idea. Anyway, what do you think about the rest of his comments?
Well, he's got a little bit more expertise than me, so it's a little over my head. Kind of feel like, one of the stereotypical captains in a show that doesn't understand all the small or the lingo.
Yeah.
He just wants straight to the point. But very good information.
Yeah,
I
it was
liked
good.
it a lot. So
interesting that a lot of our feedback here was very similar tonight. So that's definitely, like I said, it's a thing that people are asking. They've got to address that question, and I think that they will. It seems to be that that's kind of the approach they're taking. They are not going to just hang this out there and not give a response,
right?
And they're not going to answer everything in an episode. And we wouldn't ever want that anyway. So I think we'll get the answer to that sooner than rather than later.
All right.
Well, thanks to everybody who sent in feedback this week. We certainly appreciate it. We had some really good feedback, and if you want to send in your feedback, you have until... Okay, we have a storm moving in here, but that's okay. I'm sorry. Anyway.
Sorry about that.
That's fine. You can send in your feedback to... you threw me off my game there, Jeremy.
I did my best.
Thank you.
All right.
You can send in your feedback to area code 304-837-2278 and just leave a voicemail for this podcast or any of our podcasts. You can also send us an email at feedback@goldenspiralmedia.com. The deadline for that is Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And that gives us time to get it all prepped and ready for the show, because we start the show at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. All right, so let's move into our Twitter poll segment. All right, this week's question was, did Aaron make a mistake by telling Maggie about what Ben told him? I was trying not to be too spoilery, because with our Fringe podcast, we've said some things that for people who hadn't seen the episode yet, they got a little mad, which my philosophy is, if you don't want to be spoiled about a TV show, get off Twitter.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get spoiled. But basically, he told her about the amulet and all that Ben had told him. Was that a mistake? We'll get your opinion here at the end. So this comes from Zort70. More than likely a big mistake for such a huge secret. He seems to be quite naive, although possibly too soon to tell. And Jew20NA says, I had a bad feeling about that. Why couldn't he keep it to himself, at least until he had no choice or a good reason? Pink Mike says, this was the second episode. My best guess is yes, he told her too soon. Alternicat, this is awesome. I love this one. Aaron is definitely a Rev Twit. Rev Twit is the hashtag for this. Aaron is definitely a Rev Twit for showing it to Maggie. But it's better than his Gollum-esque mooning over it. My precious. Very good, Alternicat.
Appreciate that.
Ducky is Lost says, yes, if Ben trusted Maggie, he would have told her. Rev Fan Podcast says, not at all. Aaron needs help, and they wouldn't go to Grace's town unless he told her. Lost Weather Guy says, yes, there is enough reason for him to be suspicious of her, it seems to me. Test315 says, I'm thinking yes. Chiodo says, yes, he did. I don't trust her one bit. And No One's Minion says, yes, he made a mistake. She definitely has ulterior motives for getting close to Ben. So everybody, I think, but one person in there said that it was a mistake. What says Jeremy?
Well, Jeremy's going to say Ducky is right. And Ben didn't trust her necessarily. I mean, we don't. If Ben doesn't tell her, what makes you think you need to tell her?
Right.
So I definitely agree that it was an unwise decision. But I think it was a warm-hearted decision. So
it was.
I think that he's a fool, but we'll see how it goes. So.
I think he's a fool too. He's definitely the Hurley. Hurley, we love Hurley, but you don't trust Hurley with a secret.
Yeah.
And you don't use him as a good judge of character. He just takes everyone as being good.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's good. That was one of Hurley's redeeming qualities, but Aaron is very much the same way, I think, in both of those qualities.
Right.
And I think he made a mistake too. But we'll find out. You know, like I said, we did learn about her kids and how she lost her kids and all that stuff. That was a very touching scene.
Mm-hmm.
But I still don't trust her.
So do you think her kids are real?
Yes.
Okay.
Why else would you carry around an iPhone for 15 years and make sure...
Because you're hunting a man who can turn it on, and maybe you need to phone home. E.T., right?
Whatever.
Hey, I don't know.
That's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. But it could be real.
All right. So if you want to participate in the Twitter poll each week, follow us on Twitter. That's the first thing you have to do. And our Twitter handle is GSM, like Golden Spiral Media. Podcasts with an S. All one word. And, on Tuesday, usually Tuesday morning, I'll send that out. Well, you can hear the thunder rolling in on that storm.
Yep.
It's getting close. And, so on Tuesdays, I'll send out the Twitter poll and then respond with the hashtag RevTwit. That's where RevTwit comes in. So thanks to everybody who participated. All right, let's give our contact information.
Okay.
I just gave some of it. Why don't you give the rest of it?
Okay, well, you can submit your theories or provide feedback at 304-837-2278 or email us at feedback@goldenspiralmedia.com. And again, the deadline for submitting this feedback is 6 p.m. Eastern, each Tuesday.
Yep.
Let's see. You can also check out some of our live views or our recorded views on youtube.com /The Fringe Podcast.
Yeah, you know, when we started this operation, the Fringe Podcast was all that we had. It was all that was on our radar. Mm-hmm. And so as we've grown, you know, we already had the YouTube channel. And so it is youtube.com /The Fringe Podcast. But you'll find all of our recorded podcasts over there at that for this and all of our other Golden Spiral Media productions. But yeah, youtube.com /The Fringe Podcast.
Okay. And you can find this podcast on Zune, Stitcher, BlackBerry, Instacast, Downcast, and SoundCloud.
And iTunes.
And iTunes, obviously. But, and also, if you would please submit feedback and rate us and review us on iTunes. We definitely appreciate any reviews that you give.
Yeah, we sure do. We thank you. We've had a good response to the podcast, and just very, very grateful for all of you guys that are doing that. Once again, if you want to join our live events, that's Monday night while the show is airing in Eastern and Central, and that's at boy, I'm terrible tonight. That's at goldenspiralmedia.com/live. Honestly, you can go to thefringepodcast.com/live. We use the same code. It's the same chat room. But anyway, I'm just in the habit of saying that. And of course, on Tuesday nights during the live recording, which is at 8 p.m. Eastern at the same address, goldenspiralmedia.com/live. And join in the West Coast chat too. You know, we won't be there most of the time because I'm trying to put in show prep so we can get the podcast ready for Tuesdays. But yeah, hang out and have a good time with the West Coast fans of Revolution too. All right, Jeremy, any other final thoughts?
Well, I have no extra final thoughts at the moment. No.
All right.
I'm ready to sign off. How about you?
Yeah, I think I am ready to sign off. So until next time, shut up and stay here.
And I'll just go Danny.
The Revolution Podcast and Golden Spiral Media are not associated with Bad Robot Productions, Warner Brothers, or NBC. Golden Spiral Media's use of any and all copyrighted material is only for parody, news analysis, critique, and for educational purposes as provided within United States Code Title 17, aka Fair Use. Check out our Revolution blog, live show, and other podcast productions at goldenspiralmedia.com. Copyright 2012, Golden Spiral Media.